Is your marriage on the brink of divorce? Are you finding that your husband is completely disconnected from you, but you're really trying hard to make it work and really get it back to where it was, say 5, 10, 15, 20 years ago? If you are, make sure you continue to watch this video. And make sure you hit that subscribe button below and click on that bell notification as well, so every week you get access to my latest videos where I talk you through a little bit more about how to save your marriage, how to recover from infidelity, and really how to get to the bottom of male psychology and relationships so you can learn how to communicate properly and have the greatest impact in terms of the quality of your marriage. Now look, I know that if you're in this position right now, there's potentially a part of you that just feels hopeless, doesn't feel like you're actually able to make any progress, and I want you to know that that's a very normal place to be at. But I also want you to know that there is hope. Transformation is real, and I think about clients of mine over the years, people like Laurie and Angie and Monique and Rachel and Sarah and all these beautiful women who I've done interviews with over the past number of years, and who have also been able to just create remarkable shifts in their marriage. I really want you to know that this is real. So make sure you watch this entire video and put these principles that I'm going to teach you into practice so that you're able to get the most out of it. Now, I've always been fascinated around, what is it that allows some people to be able to save their marriages and make progress in their marriages and other people who don't, especially when their marriage has been, problematic for a number of years. What's the secret? What's the real reason that causes these shifts? And one of the things I'm a huge believer in is that the key component to it all is about the shifts that we make within ourselves. Now, I know that may not necessarily be sexy. I know that there's probably a big part of you that's like, why should I have to do the work? Because he was the one that cheated on me. He was the one that requested the divorce and so on. So why am I the one that has to do the work? And I always go back to the truth, which is no matter what area of life you're in, you have to create those shifts from within. And the reason is that what really determines how we move forward in anything in life is our fundamental emotional state. That's where the real transformation lies. If you just think about this logically for a second, if you're in a job and you want to perform to the best of your ability, are you going to try and make sure that the people around you and your boss and so on create this environment where everything's like perfect for you to be able to do the best that you can? Or is your focus going to be, well, I'm going to make sure that I'm in the right mindset to ensure that no matter what the environment is, I'm going to do the very best that I can. Now, I know, having worked in corporate world over the years, a lot of people will take that first approach. They want to make sure their manager is treating them perfectly. They want to make sure that they're given the task that they're good at and so on. But I always found that the people that actually started to move up the ladder or create the results that they're looking for, they took on a different mindset. They said, you know what, yeah, I'm not enjoying my manager at the moment, or I'm getting a little bit frustrated with some of the work, but it doesn't matter because I'm going to step up and I'm going to do the things that I need to do. And how do they do that? By getting themselves into the right emotional state. And the same thing applies in marriages. You've got to create that shift in terms of your emotional state. And so what I want to do now is I want to talk you through 3 really important steps that you can take immediately, and I guess principles that you want to apply so that you're creating those shifts on the inside, and then you begin to fast track your approach towards saving your marriage. Now, the first step that you want to take is to really focus on what you want rather than what you don't want. Now, this is due to 2 components. First is around the law of attraction. Now, some of you may be familiar with it, some of you may not. It's totally cool. I'll explain it shortly. And secondly, it's about taking advantage of what we call the reticular activating system. Now, when we think about the law of attraction, essentially what we're talking about is the thoughts and the feelings that you hold on to regularly is what ultimately is drawn to you in your life. So if you're always focusing on debt and you're focusing on negativity and you're focusing on all the bad things in life, what do we get? We get more of it, right? And then if we're focusing on all the good things and the things that we want, then we're going to draw more of that in. Now, obviously there's more complexities to it, and I'll explain that more in a separate video. But if we just think about this for a second and we think about daily life, most of us, what do? We focus on all the things that we don't want. Oh my God, is my husband going to leave me? Is he going to screw me over financially? Am I going to be able to take care of the household? What happens if he leaves me with the mortgage? What happens if these bad things go on? And so we're literally just thinking about that all the time, because remember, we're in survival mode, and our brain is going towards that path of saying, well, I'm so afraid of this, so I need to focus on those things, because it thinks that if I focus on those things, then that's going to somehow benefit me by protecting me. But it actually isn't. It does the opposite. It draws that stuff in. It energizes those things. And so every day we're always in this shitty state. And in that negative state that we find ourselves in, we make poor decisions. We literally draw those things into our lives. And look, I can tell you right now, there's absolutely no judgment, because I've done this so many times it's not even funny. And I know the pain that you can feel when you're in that place. Whereas if we put our energy into what we want, right? If we're actually focusing on the things that we actually want, I want my husband back. I want to create this beautiful family. I want to find inner peace. I want to be joyful. I want to be happy. I want to feel grateful and all that stuff. And you feel as if you've actually got that right now. So that's where your point of focus is. Then what happens is, not only are we magnetizing that thing towards us, but secondly, what it's actually doing is it's getting us into the right emotional space. Now, this is important because it doesn't take much to trigger someone when they're in a negative emotional state. You know, all it takes is for him to not respond to a message, or, you know, not call you at the time that you would hope he would, or, you know, not be proactive when it comes to looking after the kids, or whatever it may be. And immediately they'll trigger you. And then you'll get hurt. And then you'll feel frustrated or angry or whatever emotions that come up. And then our brain goes into, I'm sick and tired of this stuff, and why does he always act like that? But at the same time, we still want him back. So we effectively get into this place where we're finding ourselves angry at that person, but then at the same time, we want them back. And it creates this endless loop in our mind. And that causes all sorts of pain internally. So if you can put your energy into where you actually want to go, but feel as if you've actually got that right now, then you start to magnetize, you start to energize a situation for your highest good. And that's really important. So think of it in that terms. Focus on you want, and you start to draw that stuff into your life. Yes, you're going to have to take action, of course, but this is just one step in the right direction to help you really draw in the very thing that you're actually desiring at this moment in time. The second part of the process when it comes to really saving your marriage from the brink of divorce is to ask yourself, what's the reason that he's acting the way that he is? And can I take some sense of ownership in terms of getting the marriage to its current state? Now, this is obviously a bit of a sensitive point for some people, because a lot of individuals will feel like they've done everything they can, that they've been nice, they've been lovely, they've been kind, they've done all the things that they needed to do, and then he's gone off and acted the way he has. But I'll tell you right now, you know, in all the years that I've been doing this, I've never seen a situation where someone has gone off and just acted the way that they have because they were genuinely happy. You know, people go off and cheat, people go off and engage in certain behaviors because they're not fundamentally content on the inside, or they've got some sort of wounds on the inside, or in some cases, it's not very good people. And I think sometimes we have to just acknowledge that there are some individuals out there that just aren't necessarily operating from the kind of values base that you are. And that's something we have to accept. But on the proviso that he's actually a half decent guy, we've got to remember that the marriage has got to this point. We don't need to take ownership or responsibility for the behaviors that that person is engaged in. But we do need to take ownership and responsibility for how the marriage has got to that point. This is not about sitting here and saying, I'm amazing, I'm perfect, and he's the one that's an asshole, and that's it. Because that's not going to help you to get anywhere. And I know, once again, this might trigger some people, and that's okay. But sometimes I really believe in speaking the truth and speaking my truth. And I'll tell you that when people can actually own the truth and the way in which marriages have got to this point, then things can actually start to shift and start to move forward. It's really important to recognize that. And so not only that, but if you can also understand that he's at that place and he's acting in a resistant fashion towards you because there are certain things that trigger him, or there are certain things that, you know, he's struggled with over the years and he's hit that tipping point. Once you understand that, you can then start to make some shifts, but you can also have compassion and empathy for it. I mean, let's just think about this for a second. Let's say you and your husband have been having problems for a period of time. Now, if he says certain things to you that are resistant to what's going on, in other words, he's annoyed at you, he's pissed off at you, he's blaming you all the time for various things, you're going to be challenged by that. It's not going to work well for you. You're not going to react well. And even if you're not getting angry at him, you might shut down, or it might make you emotional and things like that, understandably so. But if he was to come to you and say, listen, honey, I just want to really acknowledge the fact that, you know, over the last decade or so since we've been married, we've had to go through some really, really difficult times. And I just want to explain to you a little bit more about kind of where I've come from and the challenges that I've been dealing with and so on. And I just want to, you know, own my part and really take responsibility for the things that I've done. And I'm really sorry that it's got to this point. Your ability to have compassion in those moments is going to be way increased. You're going to see him as a human. You're going to recognize that he's in pain. And a lot of times we fail to really understand where that person is at. But if we can really get a greater understanding of that, if you can start to ask questions or even take ownership of some of the things that you've maybe done over the years, then the chances are that he's going to slowly open up to you. It may not happen overnight, because he might question it and might think, oh, it's some sort of trick that you know, you're applying, or you've been watching those videos from that guy from New Zealand, and you know that might trigger him and so on. So there may be a part of him that feels like this isn't going to last. So you've got to make sure there's consistency there. But really important to step into that person's world and ask yourself, is there a reason why he's acting the way he is? What is it that is actually triggering him at this moment in time? And I always find the best thing that we can do is to take ownership of our world and take ownership of the things that maybe we could have done better. And then that opens the heart and starts to create better dialogue between the two of you. And thirdly, what you really want to make sure you do is really detach from that outcome. Now, I'll tell you right now, of all the women that I've worked with who've been able to save their marriages and create shifts in their lives, not just in their marriage, but in other areas of their lives as well, they always got to a place of what we call detachment. Now, just to be clear, detachment doesn't mean that you don't care or you're not interested and you just forget about everything else and you're just focusing on you. What it means is that you know that if this marriage works out, wonderful. If it doesn't, I'm going to be okay. Now, that might sound counterproductive because you might be thinking, oh, but I've really got to put my energy into it. And a lot of you will be challenged by this because, you know, when we want something, we think that we've got to put all our energy into it all the time. Wrong. We don't need to do that. We actually need to step back. You know, if I think about the areas of my life that I've had to improve over the course of my life, whenever I got obsessed with something and attached to something, it never worked out. When I stood back and went, hey, listen, if it works out, great. If it doesn't, that's okay. But I'm going to put my energy into it in a beautiful way, in a loving way, and really trust that things are going to work out. But I'm also okay with it not working out, if that makes sense. It's just a very subtle balance. When you find that balance and you find peace on the inside, then things start to work out. Now, the other reason, and for those of you who are a bit more sort of mentally oriented rather than necessarily spiritually and emotionally, if you want to think of it in this way, let's say you're obsessed with something, or think about something that you've been obsessed with over the years, where you wanted something so bad and you just couldn't get it out of your mind. Did it work out? Now, for some of you, remember, we're all wired very differently. So some individuals get obsessed with something and they end up achieving the very thing that they want, but there's still a deep part of them that really believes it. For those of you who struggle with actual belief on the inside, if you obsess about something and you attach yourself to something, you're going to come from fear. And when you come from fear, the very thing that you want is going to elude you. And this is why detachment is such a powerful tool. It's such an amazing tool to embrace. Now, how do we do that? One of the things that you can do is really learn to embrace uncertainty. Now, most of us struggle with uncertainty. We need to know. But I tell you right now that if you can embrace uncertainty, your quality of life will exponentially increase, because you're not freaking out about what is going to happen or what might happen and so on. You say, I don't know how this is going to unfold, but the beauty of uncertainty is it means that you're open to all possibilities. Whereas if you're like, okay, look, it's got to be this way and I need to have it this way and that's it, you're shutting out the possibilities. Think about it. You know, if you look at your life, I'm sure there would be instances where you got something you wanted, but it happened in ways that you could never have imagined. You know, I can tell you right now, there have been so many instances in my life and my clients' lives where the most random things, you can almost call them miraculous, have happened. And they're thinking, how? But it always happened when they started to embrace uncertainty. So that is one of the greatest gifts that you can possibly experience in yourself. And the other thing that I think is really, really important is to learn to really heal at an emotional level. I think that's one of the most underrated but most powerful tools that are out there. And no one talks about it. Everyone's so focused on like reprogramming the brain and focusing on affirmations and so on. Those things might give you some short-term relief, but it'll never shift you long-term. So you've really got to make sure you focus on the emotional level of healing. How do you do that? Well, look, I take my clients through a really, really powerful process that, you know, I've learned over the years and have helped me to create remarkable shifts on the inside within me, but also it allows you to magnetize the things that you actually want in your life. It's really, really amazing stuff. So, you know, if you're really struggling with this, if you resonate with the idea of detachment and you're trying to figure out how to improve it, but obviously you want to save your marriage as well, then I'd love to be of service to you through my program, The Authentic Relationship System. It's an amazing program. It is really, really profound. And if you follow the steps in it, I promise you, you're going to create some amazing shifts on your journey. So if it feels right for you, if you like my videos and enjoy my New Zealand accent and so on, then what I encourage you to do is in the description section below, just click on that link which says book a call with me. Just click on that link, choose a time that works for you, and then I'll contact you at that scheduled time. And we can have a chat, get to learn a little bit more about where you're at now, where you want to get to, and hopefully I get the opportunity and the privilege one day to serve you on this path. Thanks for watching this video. If you've liked it, make sure you hit the like button below. If you want to get more videos like this, hit that subscribe button. And do let me know what your biggest takeaway is, or your biggest challenge, or you just want to comment on the video, whatever it is, just write it below. I'd love to hear from you, and I'll make sure I respond to every single one of you. And if you want to learn the 5 stresses that will destroy any marriage, click this video above. And if you want to learn the 3 signs of self-sabotage, click this video above. Thank you so much. God bless, and I'll talk to you in the next video.